YouTube, what is up? Well, that was quite a release yesterday. Polaris dropping more than one side-by-side drop in two. I thought that the Turbo R deserved its own video. I'm pretty excited about this machine. I'm kind of torn. It looks like a rad machine, and it's a lot better price. The Pro R, ooh, she's a little expensive. I'm sure guys will pay for it. It looks like an awesome machine, but not cheap. So the Turbo R is our replacement for the Turbo S, which, as you guys know, I've had a Turbo S since 2018. I got invited to the launch, which was really cool, and I have absolutely loved that machine. It's become my race car, and I have put 4,500 miles on it, and it has been awesome. I've had to do little things to it. I think I've gone through a diff. I changed all the axles. I've had to reinforce some of the frame and stuff, but all in all, I mean, these are hard race miles, and I feel like the machine's done good, and I have no complaints. The clutching has been awesome. The suspension has been awesome, like my favorite machine as far as suspension goes. So yeah, the Turbo R. So let's go over it. Kind of what the XP Pro should have been. I never got super stoked on the XP Pro. It was a cool machine, but I won't touch anything. It's not 72 inches, now we're 74 inches, but it just didn't have enough for me. It's kind of funny. I couldn't get around it. My friend John bought an XP Pro, and he long traveled it, and it is freaking badass. It's really cool, but it was never enough for me to go out and buy. I still felt like the Turbo S was the best machine that they made. But now, with the upgrades they've done, so to this Turbo R, I think it might be the machine to get. So the fully decked out Turbo R is $32,999, so it's about $4,000 more than an old fully decked out Turbo S in a two-seater. We have a 74-inch wide chassis with a 96-inch long. So this is the Pro XP chassis, basically. And I like that wheelbase. Is pretty dope. It's going to be really square, and it's going to just, man, it's going to be freaking awesome. We have they've upgraded the way they're making their frames, so now they're all one-piece welded frames. It looks like they've gone with some stronger steel on all the mounting points. You have bigger bolts, and it looks like thicker material where all the suspension mounts, which is really good to see. Let's see, 181 horsepower. So I have the 168 horsepower motor in my Turbo S, and honestly, it's been pretty good. And like, besides maybe the dunes, that's where the Can-Ams, like, they do really good in the dunes, but besides the dunes, I've been pretty happy with the power. So 181 horsepower on a reliable drivetrain that I know really well, it's not bad. This one is lighter than the Pro R by like I think it was about 170 pounds lighter. So there's that. So the power to rate ratio between the Pro R and the Turbo R is really close, and when you take in stuff like elevation, honestly, I don't know if they're gonna be pretty close. Now when guys start turbocharging the 4-cylinder, that's gonna be insane. But stock for stock in the mountains, they're gonna be, I don't think one guy's gonna feel like his machine isn't doing good enough. So really cool. So in that, this is the older drivetrain, but they did change the low range to a lower low range, which I ride with a lot of 4x4 guys, a lot of off-road guys, and they all had to re-gear their machines. So that is really cool that you've got a lower low range in the new Turbo R. I'm stoked on that. We've got the same 5-lug 15-inch wheel and 32-inch tire that comes on the Pro R, so that's awesome. You're getting better wheels and tires right off the bat. I think the Pro XP came with a 14 and a 31 or something inch tire, so I would have changed those immediately, so there's money that I'm saving right there. I think that tire looks like a good factory tire. I would definitely run it. So we have so much more strength. So a couple things that I know were problems was the clutching on the Pro XP. I know a lot of people had problems with the clutching. And then I felt like for all the stuff they did to make the new chassis, make it stronger, they kind of went cheap on the shock. It had dynamics, but it had really cheap springs. And I remember when I first drove my buddies, I did not feel like it was taking the bumps very well. So good to see on these that even the helper springs look like way better. Like this Fox shocks looks like a whole nother level of awesomeness. So it looks like it's a much higher quality shock for the money, like way better than a Pro XP. So yeah, I am stoked on that. And then hopefully they have the clutching figured out. I've never had a problem with the clutches in my Turbo S, and I've never tuned them. I only made it 400 miles, but I did Vegas to Reno, never changed the belt, 400 miles of racing, didn't have a problem. I've never really had problems with my clutching on my Turbo S. And I hear you guys, a lot of you guys have had problems on some of your cars, so I get it. But for me, I don't have a problem with CVT. Okay, so yeah, we have 5-lug, 32-inch tires. We have stronger axles, stronger knuckle, larger brakes, heavy-duty hubs and bearings. So you're getting an upgraded steering rack. You're getting all the tough stuff that they designed for the Pro R on the Turbo R, and that is so cool. So it's a drivetrain that I know really well with all this awesomeness that they put on it that I can tune. And like, I just feel like the Turbo R, for the money, this might be the best all-around car for the price. It's gonna be pretty freaking good. We have 28 inches of travel, or usable travel. This will be legal for the Pro Turbo class if you're racing. So I was wondering how they were gonna race the new Pro R, and they probably have to race it in like Unlimited or like a sportsman type class, because the Pro Turbo, it's just not gonna qualify, but the Turbo R will. So I think you'll see a lot of racers with this platform in the Pro Turbo class. So that's really cool that they thought about that, and they gave this all that good stuff. Same interior, I believe, as the Pro R. So you're getting the same interior as the Pro R. I do like the new interior over the old Turbo S. My old Turbo S has a 90-inch wheelbase. It is tight, and once you start throwing stuff on it, it's a tight chassis. So I'm stoked to see. It'd be cool to have a little more space in the cabin. I believe that's what they did when they released the Pro XP. So I'm excited to check that out, whether it's in a Pro R or a Turbo R. But super cool. Let's talk about the shocks real quick. So we have these Fox Live Valve 3.0 shocks, front and rear. It's a much better shock package. And if you can see on the video here, you've got 2 solenoids up here at the top. So you've got one for compression and one for rebound. So each of those independently adjusting 200 times a second, like freaking awesome. So it is next level suspension, and I think the Ride Command, or the Live Valve, is going to be worth it on this bad boy. So we have the updated Ride Command. We've got our GPS, our Rockford Fosgate radio. That stuff is cool. Your communications, your tracking, and then they have the drive modes, the Baja, Sand, Sport, Race and Sport or something. So the only thing that I'm not seeing, which I hope is a possibility, Polaris engineers, if you see this, give me a custom mode. I would love to have control over those shocks and say, you know, in my custom setting, I want my compression at 5, I want my rebound at 2. You know, I'd love to have control over the front and rear, like each corner, honestly, and be able to set those settings. I know it's something you can do, because then my guy can go in and valve the shocks the way I want and respring them, and then I can have control over the compression rebound through the computer, which would be freaking awesome. Let's talk about the suspension. So we have the new 74-inch track, and we have the shock connected to the lower arm going through the axle, which is really cool. Makes a lot of sense. They put all the strength into this lower arm, and it gives you a good shock, like geometry, good shock angle and geometry. You know, with the Can-Ams, they have a longer shock, they come out more, and it makes it kind of, instead of using the shock, it's kind of going up and barely pushing in. And I think having a more straight up and down, it's not straight up and down, but more up and down angle on the front shock, and then you put all your strength into the lower arm, which is the arm that gets hit too, I think it's going to work really well. I'm really stoked on all the updates they've done on the suspension. And then in the rear, we have the new knuckles and the new trailing arm and the new toe link going through the trailing arm. So, I mean, it's a big deal. They've done some cool stuff, some really cool stuff. Let's see, what else did I got that I liked on this thing? Oh, and then we just have our 3-piece new race style sway bars. So, really cool new sway bar system. So, honestly, for $4,000, it is definitely still a jump over a Turbo S, but you're getting a lot. Like, you're getting a much better shock. You're getting a drivetrain that no first year, hopefully first year gremlins. You're getting a chassis that they've improved. It's been out for 2 years. You've got a motor that's been out since like 2016 and they've improved. You're getting kind of like all the reliable good stuff they've already done with all the really cool new stuff on this car. I just think this thing is a win. I think this is, I think you're going to see a lot of people buying this car, and I think it's going to be incredible. And I think your power to weight ratio to the Pro R is going to be, it's going to be close. So, and I'm sure, obviously there's upgrades you can do to the turbo motor too. But yeah, so there you go. There's the Turbo R. I'm pretty stoked on it. I'm a little torn. I kind of like the Turbo R. Either way, I think there's a Polaris in my future. I think these cars are worthy of a purchase. It's my side-by-sides is my favorite hobby, and if something that's real game-changing comes out, I'm definitely a buyer. So pretty stoked on this thing. So anyways guys, I appreciate all the nice comments on the last video. I miss talking to all you guys, and hopefully you enjoyed this one, and I'll see you on the next one. See ya.